The Georgia Bulldogs entered the season the reigning, defending college football champions and back-to-back champions at that, with a whooping on TCU in the college football championship game last season. That one, though, was a footnote compared to the first game against Ohio State in the playoffs. Incredible seeing Georgia go down by 2 touchdowns twice in that one. Ended up winning 42-41. But the season starts anew here coming up, and they have a couple of departures, but some big names coming in to help that and reload and replenish for the 2023 season. They have the number 2 recruiting class, according to 24/7, and got 4 transfers, all from fellow SEC schools. Let's start on the offense. Wide receiver Ra Thomas joins from Mississippi State, and Dominic Leavitt joins from Georgia, and they join the already great wide receiver room, highlighted by Ladd McConkey. With Leavitt having 846 yards, 8th in the SEC last season, and Ra Thomas, 7 touchdowns, tied for 4th. They will definitely help out the quarterback this season. Running back Whitehead leaves Tennessee to join the Bulldogs in a crowded running back room. Didn't get much playing time at Tennessee, is from Athens, Georgia, so returns to the state of Georgia and looks to help the Bulldogs any way that he can. And that being the biggest loss, the Bulldogs lose Kenny McIntosh to the NFL. But Kendall Milton and Daijun Edwards are back with 15 rushing touchdowns combined from last season. Another offensive player, tight end Darnell Washington, went to the NFL, and they will look at tight end Oscar Delp, who will be slated to replace him, and is kind of more of an elusiveness player from many recruiting outlets and kind of everyone around the team. A little elusive, similar to Brock Bowers in that sense, so gonna need him to step up and fill the role of Darnell Washington. Left tackle Broderick Jones has left for the NFL as well, and redshirt freshman Ernest Green, 4-star left tackle, has received high marks from all recruiting services and being the blindside blocker. Similar to how a bunch of top programs do it, Kirby Smart is doing his own version of it, getting these recruits in because that man can recruit and fill in any deficiencies, any weaknesses that this offense may have, and plug someone in, coach him up a couple years, especially with him being a redshirt. He's been in the system, has sat, and now will definitely be ready to roll for the season. But perhaps the biggest departure, maybe Stetson Bennett, left for the NFL, 2-time champion, and now a new quarterback will need to be ready to go in the tough SEC. But I think even bigger than that, offensive coordinator Todd Monken, who left for the Baltimore Ravens, may be the biggest departure on this team for the offensive side of the ball. And Mike Bobo, who many Georgia fans know from the years under Mark Richt, will be taken over. And some things that stuck out to me were a little concerning. What is concerning to me is his last stint as offensive coordinator at Auburn in the 2021-22 season. Last year, spent it as an offensive analyst. So got a year to kind of get familiar with the system, feel everything out. But the numbers from the Auburn 2021 season, not the best. The Tigers went 6-7 in 2021, averaged 28.3 points on offense, 68th best. And Bo Nix had by far his worst college season in terms of statistical categories. Bo Nix that season, 2,294 passing yards, lowest in his career so far at Auburn and Oregon, and a 61 completion percentage, also the lowest of his career. Bo Nix was also a runner, the lowest carries of his career, touchdowns and yards, all career lows for Bo Nix in college. Now enter Carson Beck, the new starting quarterback for the Bulldogs, a pro-style quarterback from the state of Florida, but has definitely been noted as someone that can have elusive speed, provide that to the offense, similar to how Stetson Bennett did. A lot of these games, you see Stetson turn the corner, put on the burners. Hopefully Carson Beck can replicate that, but as I mentioned, somewhat concerning having a first-year quarterback as the starter. with someone that hasn't put up the best numbers recently. But good news for Carson Beck, he will have plenty of weapons. Like I mentioned, this offense, Brock Bowers will be catching touchdowns in the NFL soon. The running back room is still good, and the wide receivers are getting some help with Leavitt, Ra Thomas, McConkey, and that incredible offensive line. So just something to keep an eye on for sure, as I think it will provide problems early in the season. He does get a good schedule, as does the Bulldogs this season. To get some stability and comfortability, start off with 2 home games against non-conference opponents, UT Martin and Ball State. That third game matchup with South Carolina is at home and is a test. Rattler and South Carolina made some strides late in the year, but this will be a winnable game for sure. The Gamecock offense can score. The Georgia defense is incredible. So Carson Beck will get that first test against South Carolina, and a relatively easy schedule, all things considered, this season. The SEC West crossover matchup being Ole Miss at home, another winnable game for them, and then end the season with a road game at Tennessee and at Georgia Tech. The Bulldog defense, as everyone knows, was phenomenal last year. Allowed 15.3 points per game, 5th least in the country, and opponent third down conversion rate of 27.96, number 3 in the country. They were much better on the run than the pass, allowing only 81.2 rushing yards, the best number in the country, and 61st best in passing yards allowed, 227.6. Now, the rest of the SEC does have experienced quarterbacks, while Georgia really doesn't. Spencer Rattler, Jackson Dart, Jaden Daniels, Devin Leary. Some of those quarterbacks, they'll definitely play and get a little bit of that experienceness from those quarterbacks. Carson Beck, however, will be able to thrive in this offense with a good defense on his back. And like I mentioned, even on the defensive side, defensive back will be probably the most difficult to replace with Ringo and Smith leaving. But Smart can recruit. He did the same thing in 21 with Lewis Seen leaving and Kendrick as well. Just the biggest question mark for me will be this offense and how the game plan looks under Mike Bobo. For example, will he use the running back still the way that Monken did, and the running backs catching passes, mainly Kenny McIntosh? Last season, he left with the rushing ability and the pass-catching ability, 505 reception yards, 43 catches, and 2 touchdowns on the season. Brock Bowers will be there and incredible. Just going to be interesting to see how this year shakes out on offense for the Bulldogs, especially them being in some close games last year against inferior opponents. Hope everything works out, and Georgia will be back in the college football playoff this season, more than likely.